What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Talkin Football podcast. This is episode 51, if I'm not mistaken. I believe it's episode 51. Today, we are going to be going over week one, everything that happened there. We're going to be recapping week one. Today, we are talking scores, injury report, recent news, ballers, fallers, and of course, the signature dog of the week. Also, if you're a fan of the Commanders or Packers, or if you're just a fan of Thursday Night Football, stay tuned until the very end. I will do a quick TNF preview for week two. Let's get into it. Let me cue the intro, and we will get right into talking about week one of the NFL season. All right, so 1 week is through, and it's hard for me to do this video because I'm thinking like what I do last year. I know I did, teams who played well, teams who didn't. And it's hard for me to say, oh, this individual team played really poorly because it's so early in the season. You're going to have rust. There's only a couple teams in the league that I'm like, yeah, this team genuinely stinks. Everyone else, I'm like, I don't really know if they stink or not, and I think that's what's such a tough time. By week 3 or 4, you should know, like, this team stinks or this team is good. And there's going to be some teams where you'll be like, okay, maybe even though they're 1-3, I can still see maybe down the stretch, weeks like 12 and on, maybe they win out or maybe only lose one game during that stretch. So it's a really hard time to kind of guess what's going on in terms of game picks. I don't think I did that well this week. I mean, I know a majority of them I got right. I think there were a couple ones that I wasn't that I was not right on. Actually, a lot of the middle games I wasn't totally right on. But actually, come to think of it, I didn't do too poorly. Yeah, I guess I didn't do too bad on that. I will say one thing I'm a little annoyed about. Baltimore, if you're a Raven fan watching this, I'm sorry for you. I really, really wish that Baltimore kind of backed up my claim on them, but they still played a really good game despite that really late sell. Let's talk about the scoreboard. Week one scores, and let's get right into it. Thursday Night Football. Now, I already went over this, but because I'm the Talkin Football podcast, we're going to keep going over it. Thursday Night Football. Eagles defeated the Cowboys 24-20 in the season opener. Friday Night Football NFL Brazil game 27-21 is their final there. The Chargers beat the Chiefs. On Sunday, Bucks beat the Falcons 23-20. Bengals beat the Browns 17-16. Very low scoring game there, actually. I thought the Bengals would score a little bit more. The Colts thumped the Dolphins 33-8. Holy cow. That score is still wild to me. If I'm a Dolphin fan, I am just sick to my stomach right now. The Jaguars beat the Panthers in Travis Hunter's debut. 26-10 was the final there in Duval. The Raiders upset. I don't even know. The Raiders went into Gillette and they beat the Patriots 20-13, not 28. The Cardinals beat the Saints 20-13. Same score there. So 20-13 games there. That's interesting. Cardinals, you guys know, if you guys have been following, I'm all in on the Cardinals this year. I thought they'd play a little bit better than how they did, but look, a win's a win. I think that's kind of how you have to take it. The Steelers, in what was actually a really, really good game, the Steelers beat the Jets 34-32 thanks to a classic performance, 4 touchdowns from Aaron Rodgers. The Commanders beat the Giants 21-6. Commanders looked solid, not great. They looked beatable. Giants looked terrible. Broncos beat the Titans 20-12 in what was a pretty defensive battle there. Niners beat the Seahawks 17-13 in what was a game that was actually, this could totally shape up the future for the Niners. And I'll talk about that in a little bit with the injury report with George Kittle. If you guys have not heard about that yet, I will get to that in the next segment. 17-13 was your final there from Lumen Field. Lions and Packers. Packers beat them 27-13. First game without Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson in a while for the Lions. 27-13 is your final there. 14-9 in SoFi Stadium as the Rams beat the Texans in what was a really not a great game. I thought it would be a little bit better there. Sunday Football, absolute classic game between the Ravens and the Bills. 41-40 was your final there as Buffalo goes to 1-0. Ravens fall to 0-1. Monday Night Football, actually a really good game. It turned out to be after what was a very defensive start. The Vikings beat the Bears coming from behind after being down 16-7, right? 17-6, sorry. The Bears at one point had a 91% chance of winning that game. They ended up losing 27-24 on Monday night. Let's get into the injury report. And for what it's worth, the news. I know I don't have news there. But you know what? For what it's worth, let's just kind of break down the extra news of the day. So, luckily, compared to years prior, we have not had a ton of we didn't have a ton of injuries in this week, which I'm very happy to report. There's two main ones, or three, I guess. Let's talk about the one from Big Blue. The Giants starting linebacker Micah McFadden is likely going to miss a large portion of the season due to a foot injury that he suffered early on in the Giants and Commanders game. Original fear was that he was going to be out for the season, and that he probably broke his ankle. Luckily, the initial test came back negative, but further examinations have shown that there's still a pretty severe damage there. I think he will need surgery. He will be back at some point later in the season. As a Giants fan, I don't think it matters that much considering how bad he played. But again, I guess we'll see. Next injury report is from San Francisco. There's two to report on. One of them is kind of vague. The other one, a little bit more serious. Start with the more serious one. George Kittle, who I said was going to be great this year in fantasy. It's the number one tight end there. 1 week, and now he's on the IR. Going to be out for 4 to 5 weeks. Is over looking at maybe 6 with a leg injury that he suffered against the Seahawks. He did catch a touchdown before he left the game. Looked a little uneasy, and Kittle's tough. So the fact that he's going on the IR should tell you about the severity of this injury. He will be back at some point during the season. Brock Purdy also suffered a shoulder injury. If I'm not mistaken, I believe it's his left shoulder. I don't believe it was his throwing arm. So that should make it a little bit easier for the Niners to manage this. But it's still something to keep your eye on. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that this was a left shoulder injury for Brock Purdy. So look, they're hurt to begin with, and we don't really know what's going to happen there. There's still some kind of thing brewing. We're not totally sure what the deal is there. They were kind of vague about it, so I guess we'll have to see what's going on with Brock Purdy. But he does have a shoulder injury, so we're going to have to see how they handle that. Another piece of news out of San Francisco. They have waived Jake Moody after he had a stellar rookie season. Since then, he's sucked. He's been so bad. They now added Eddie Pinheiro to their active roster. So they have a new kicker and San Fran. The Jake Moody experiment is over. He has shown that he's not reliable. And look, it stinks because if you guys watch college football, him in the third round was a good pick. It was. He was incredibly accurate, incredibly reliable at Michigan. If you guys don't watch college football, kickers are not really reliable on outside of 30 yards. And I know that's a really wild thing for me to say, but they're not. It's very easy for them to shank a 31-yard kick. It's not that hard for them to do. In the pros, you see that you see that clockwork. You know what I'm saying? In college football, it's not that way at all. And I think that Jake Moody was able to do that from anywhere. I think his long was a 61-yarder, maybe a 58-yarder. I know he kicked a 58-yarder and he drilled it. That's what gave the Niners that extra hope. You know, maybe we have a kicker here because Robbie Gould was on his way out. He was kind of stinking it up a little bit. And John Lynch said, look, this is the one thing that we needed. This is the one thing we needed, and we got it. And they went to the Super Bowl that year. But now we're here, and he's stinking it up. He got waived. Eddie Pinheiro replaces him on that roster. They also signed Kendrick Bourne. He's back. Jennings is kind of hurt. Pearsall is actually played pretty well. Ayuk, we don't know when he's coming back, probably in the middle of the season. So the Niners get some extra reinforcements there at wide receiver. Also, Jabril Peppers signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers, the former Patriot, Giant, and Brown. And you know what? For what it's worth, while we're talking about college football, Wolverine has signed with the Steelers after being cut by the Patriots just after the roster deadline was reached. He was kind of cut for no reason. He didn't really find a spot on Mike Vrabel's defense, which I'm a little surprised about because I know he kind of likes to utilize those kind of safeties. Then again, he's not there anymore, so I guess he never fit in. Kind of the same thing with Kyle Duggar. He's not really. I don't think he's going to be there anytime soon. They're going to at least try and get rid of him. So Peppers finds his way to another team. This time it is in Pittsburgh, coming off a win against the New York Jets. Outside of that, I think it was sorry, I was wrong. I'm looking at my notes here. Tank Bigsby has been traded to the Philadelphia Eagles. I was very surprised to see that. I did not think that Tank Bigsby would be traded. A fifth and a sixth round pick is going back to Jacksonville in exchange for Bigsby, according to Rappaport and Adam Schefter. So the Eagles just continue to add, and the running back group is already pretty good. We saw Barkley. He was that's not true. He wasn't really that great on Thursday night, but then again, got to get the gears turning. Will Shipley was really good in my opinion. I know we didn't really have a ton of plays, but in the plays that he was playing, he played pretty well. A.J. Dillon is also there. So adding Tank Bigsby only makes that running back room more elusive. And, I mean, just even better there, in my opinion. Colton McKivitz signed a 3-year extension with the San Francisco 49ers for $45 million, including $27 million guaranteed. You know, it's funny. I saw that. I thought that he wasn't good, and maybe I'm a casual for that. I just didn't think that he was that good to get $15 million a year. But then again, the Chiefs signed one of the Niners' backup left tackles for $15 million a year. So I don't really get that. The one thing that's always interested me is NFL inflation. And even like in the NBA too. I mean, in 2019, the Warriors signed DeMarcus Cousins coming off an All-Star season for $5 million. You want to know how much that'd be worth today? At least 30. That's a wild thing to think about. It's been like 7 years. I know. Whatever. It's been right since 2019. Yeah, I mean, this is 6 years since 2019. 7, depending on how you look at it. That's a wild thing to think about, that it's been that much. The price has inflated that much. I mean, Josh Giddey just extended for $25 million a year. And I know he was good. I know he's been good with the Bulls, but like $25 million a year, maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, this was like, I don't know, maybe like 10, 12, 13, it wasn't that much. It was not. Now it's double that in just 5 years. So that market inflation has always intrigued me, and I honestly, if I had to pinpoint it somewhere, I'm blaming baseball for it. Baseball is the reason that all of this happens. Mike Trout, when he got his new contract, when did Mike Trout get his new contract? 21, 22? When he got that massive? No, it had to be before that, because at that point he was already 10 years into his career. There's no way that they would give a 30-year-old a 14-year contract, or 11 years, whatever it was. Or maybe they would. The Angels are kind of dumb. But they gave him such a massive contract, biggest contract in the world at that point. And look at where we've gone from there. Machado is getting 300 from the Dodgers, or not from the Dodgers, from the Padres. Tatis is getting around 400, right? Or 300? He got paid pretty well. Bobby Witt's getting paid pretty well. Outside of that, Yamamoto with the Dodgers, he's getting 425. So that market inflation has been very interesting there. Ohtani, obviously 700. Soto getting 765. I still can't believe that he's getting that much, because he's not worth that much. He's an outfielder. But again, we're not talking baseball. We can save that for John Boy. Back to talking football. Biggest news of the week, because I talked about this on my week 1 preview pod. We talked about Jalen Carter and what his potential repercussions would be if, what it would be. And they gave it out today. I'm recording this on Tuesday night. They gave the Jalen Carter news out today. He has been fined $57,000, which is a very high fine. Usually you see it, maybe at most I've seen this 25. So $57K is pretty expensive. I mean, he's on a rookie deal. He's gonna recoup that like in a minute, pretty much, and when he gets a new contract. But definitely interesting. And what I will say, look, I agree with how they're handling this. They say there's going to be no further suspension because his ejection early on in the game already served as a 1-game suspension. I like that. I like that thinking. I like that thinking a lot. I think it's a really, really smart way to kind of do this. And I don't think it's giving them I don't think it's giving the Eagles any benefits. I think it's genuinely a way to look at them and say, well, look, logistically, he already has been suspended for a game because he didn't even play a single snap. That I like. I think that ruling was really smart and very educated on the side of the NFL, which is respectfully not something that they're very good at. So though that's the biggest headline of the week, Jalen Carter, and I agree with it. I think it's a good move that they did that, and that's something that, again, like I said, you don't see that often. The NFL actually getting something right, which I know kind of seems a little screwed up, but I genuinely feel that way because they tend to screw those kind of things up. Time for ballers and fallers. Let's move on to our next segment here. Ballers. So again, I said this at the beginning of the episode. It's hard for me to pinpoint certain players who played well, especially because they don't want to overlap with Dog of the Week. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to compromise a little bit. Ballers today in this episode, maybe later in the season, maybe we might just stick with full-on teams. But ballers, I'm talking about teams who played well, not just players who played well, but teams overall. And obviously, when you have a team filled with ballers, I'm going to pinpoint certain players in that team. And we're going to start off at Northwest Stadium in DC, because that only makes sense. Washington. The Commanders are ballers, and you can't look at it any other way than that. They played a really good game. And what's frustrating to watch, if you watch this as a Giants fan like I did, it was a winnable game. But Washington did what they needed to do. They didn't overcomplicate it, and they played sound football. That's what they did last year. And look, this is not a team, in my opinion, that's going to be like, oh, Super Bowl contender. I don't get that take because they're not that good of a team, okay? They have clear gaping holes on this team. They need more. This team, though, at face value, looks to be pretty good. Let's talk about it. Running the ball. Whether it's Bill or it's weird. He has to be called Bill, but everyone's calling him Jacory. So Krosky Merritt, he's been really good in the preseason and training camp. He had a really good game, 10 for 82, I want to say, in that realm. Big 40-yard run to kind of ice it. I mean, the game was kind of already iced at that point, but it was like an extra layer of icing, make that cake a little bit bigger. Outside of that, Terry was quiet, but you want to know who wasn't? Debo. Man, Debo freaking Samuel played like a stud. That dude, catching the ball, running the ball, whatever he needed to do, he was doing it. And I'll be honest, I was not a believer. I thought that he was washed because last year, especially, you saw he lost a little bit of his elusiveness. He lost a little bit of it, and I was like, new system. It really isn't that much different than what Shanahan's doing in San Fran. It's really not. You have a quarterback who is intelligent enough to make those plays where he needs to. Quarterback can run based on the run game, with whoever you are, and you have a receiver who can kind of make whatever you need to do. That kind of like RPO specialty stuff, that's what they do. And Devo fits into that offense. I'll give him a lot of credit there. Defensively, that defensive line, man, they were getting home a lot. And even without sacks, they were hitting Wilson. They were hitting Russ. The run game had nothing there. Tracy finished with like 5 fantasy points. Scatterbo finished with like 2. That's not good. I know. Mind-blowing thought there. They were just dominating the entire time. Giants had nothing down the field, ever. Neighbors was contained very well. The only player who I'd say, I don't know if he was contained that well, is Wan'Dale Robinson, which is wild for me to sit here and say that's the only player I didn't think they contained. And he didn't have that great of a game. He had like 6 catches for 55 yards. That's not that crazy, That's who they didn't contain? Okay, well, let's see who they did. I know Neighbors had a good stat line. I mean, I think it was like 5 for 70, if I'm not mistaken, but it's just not a good game for Neighbors. But Commanders, ballers, 100%. Let's talk about another team, ballers. And there's no way you can look at this and say any other way. Green Bay. Coming in, Micah Parsons' debut as a Green Bay Packer. Man, if you told me that this team would hold the Lions to 13 points, I would tell you, man, you're crazy. No chance that happens. But they did. And they did it. And I don't know what they did. I don't know what juice they drank before they came on the field, but they were just suffocating. Goff had nothing. Legitimately nothing. J-Mo got nothing going. Amon-Ra, other than a couple catches. But that stuff's going to happen. The pass game will eventually get there. What I'm most impressed about is that defense. And what I'm really talking about defensively is how they played against the run. That's what I meant to say. because I just talked about how well they played defensively, and I say, you want to know who else is good? The defense. Okay, great analysis. I'm talking about the run defense. Gibbs had nothing. Montgomery, nothing. Big old donut. They had nothing. Gibbs had to rely heavily through the air to even think about getting some open field. And even if he did, it was gone just like that. Montgomery, he had no time. He had nothing. Because what they're used to doing, they're used to having some kind of spread West Coast kind of mix where they vertically run. That's what they do. They vertically run. That's what they've done for forever, the Lions. They vertically run the football. And it's pretty effective. In fact, it's very effective. Montgomery, who's a power back, gets 4, 5, 6 yards per carry. Gibbs, in those same holes, because he's so elusive, he's so shifty, he's able to get 15, 16, None of that on Sunday. None of it. And I think that's really impressive. Offensively, they didn't literally blow me away that much. I wish Matt Golden played a little bit better, but I mean, when you're holding the Lions to 13 points, you don't really have to do that much. Love actually had a really good game in terms of completion percentage, 72 or 73% completion percentage, 16 of 22 was his line. Passer rating of 128.6. Jacobs was solid too, 19 for 66, a touchdown. That's not bad. Receiving wise, they were all right. Like individually, they weren't like you're not gonna look at that stat line and say, "Oh wow, look at that offense." Like, because I know I didn't, but give him credit where it's due. One more baller, and I don't want to go to the primetime games. Yes, this team right here. There's no way you can't talk about ballers and who played well if you don't include the Colts. I don't know what they did, but they were on fire. I don't know where you want to start. You want to start with the defense? You want to start with Xavier Howard, former Dolphin, coming into the Colts and saying, all we have to do is take away the check down. And he kind of goes crazy. That's a wild thing to say, but it's true. You see Tua, and you're like, he looks at Achan, or he looks maybe at Waddle on a quick curl, not there. He gets happy feet, scrambles out, gets hit. Okay, well, that's what we didn't want to happen. So now what? Okay, same thing. Set up a different check down. That's covered. Happy feet, rolled out, gets hit. Okay, now we definitely didn't want that to happen. Now it's 3rd and long. Now you're forced to throw to the sticks. Tua still throws a check down. Let's look at his stats. Tua Tagovailoa. 14 completions for 23 yards, 114 yards. 14 completions out of 23 attempts, 114 yards, touchdown, 2 picks. He was sacked 3 times. Passer rating of 51.7. Yuck. That's terrible. What's even funnier, though, is that Zach Wilson came in and he went 5 for 8. I mean, I know this is garbage time, so you know what? Nah, that's a moot point. Let's move on from that. The running game, they had nothing going. The running game had nothing going there. Nothing. Achan 7 for 55, but at some point, when you're down by as much as they were, you kind of have to pass the ball at some point. You can't really just rely on the run. Their leading receiver, 4 catches, 40 yards. That was Tyreek Hill on 6 targets. He looked frustrated. Tua also lost a fumble, by the way. I forgot to mention that. That's an ugly, ugly game for the Dolphins, but a great game for the Colts. That defense alone, man. And if you guys remember, I said, I don't think I gave the Colts a great season prediction. If I'm not mistaken, power of Instagram, we can luckily look. I had the Colts at 8-9. Decent stat line. Nothing too crazy. Decent stat. I mean, decent record. I had the Texans going 11-6, so they're 3 games behind the Texans. Okay, sure. But I didn't. I said, if you guys remember, in the offseason, one of my better performing videos in the offseason was a quicker one, and I talked about why I thought the Colts would be a really good team. Or no, that's not true. I said underrated offseason. And it's the truth. They had a very good offseason. I liked the Jones signing. I did. And if you say, oh, no, you didn't, that's not true. Look at the video. Char Ward, Cam Bynum, That's a great duo, just even without anyone else you have. They had a really good offseason, even with losing Fries and Kelly. I really like what they did. Give them credit where it's due. Also, my last baller, and I'm not gonna touch on this too much because I have a short out. Make sure you guys check that out. Talking Football Team of the Week for Week 1 goes to the Los Angeles Chargers, beating the Kansas City Chiefs 27-21 in Brazil, the reigning AFC champs. They beat them. Justin Herbert, 318 passing yards, couple of 3 touchdowns, 2 to Quentin Johnston. Man, how about them Chargers? That's my Team of the Week right there. Make sure you check out that short. And if you want more Talking Football content, I will probably, I'm not going to guarantee it. I'm still trying to test the waters and see what works and what doesn't. But check it out. Tuesday, I'm probably going to be uploading a short. Again, I'm not going to guarantee it, but maybe some Team of the Week kind of Team of the Week, TFP Team of the Week. Definitely check it out. Fallers, who did not play well. I already touched on the Giants. I thought that they played like crap. I mean, they played terribly. And anyone who thinks otherwise, you did not watch the game. They were terrible. They had nothing going. I mean, offensively, defensively, it doesn't really matter. That ferocious defensive line got absolutely zero pressure. It's the truth. Let's look at this stat line. Russell Wilson, when you're throwing 37 times, you should get at least 250 yards, and that's like a minute. That's like a really, really low amount. 168 yards. 46% completion percentage if you round up. He averaged 4.5 yards a throw. No touchdowns, no picks, was sacked twice. QBR, or sorry, not QBR, passer rating of 59. That alone, terrible. Big thumbs down. You know what? No. Double thumbs down. That is so unballer of Russell Wilson. And what makes things worse is that, like, he looked like Daniel Jones. And he's not, though. Daniel Jones left for Indy with Michael Pittman, and they have good weapons there. I'm not gonna discredit them, their weapons. They have a good receiver core. They have a better receiver core than the Giants do. They do. Pittman, I mean, Neighbors is better than Pittman, but all the other receivers are better than the Giants. Pittman, Downs, Taylor's better than any running back the Giants have. Mo Alley Cox is better than any tight end the Giants have. So I get that. He's a better crew. Offensive line is obviously way better in Indy. But Russell Wilson, you're playing like Daniel Jones. And I'm not talking 2022 Daniel Jones. I'm talking like 2024 Daniel Jones. No one wants to watch that. That's boring. That's terrible football. It's just like, ugh. And at some point, something's got to add up. Because Wilson was not playing this poorly with the Steelers last year. At least not statistically. So where this kind of comes in, I don't know. And I don't quite get it. Maybe the coaching staff should be fired. Maybe they should just like clean sweep. Also, I kind of feel like the Maras should sell the team because I feel like the Giants have put out, other than a couple of lucky years, since they last won the Super Bowl, they put out like a bunch of the same. Okay offensive line, or really terrible to okay offensive line with like improvements every 3 or 4 years that bring it back to mid for like a couple of games, and then someone gets hurt, and then it's a never-ending cycle. You bring in a star player, you pay him, or you don't pay him, and then he leaves, and he immediately becomes successful, even wins a Super Bowl championship. Odell, Saquon. Even Evan Ingram, who had major drop issues with the Giants, went to the Jaguars and became a top 5 tight end in his prime with the Jaguars. At some point, that should add up. At some point, it should. Julian Love left the Giants, became an all-pro safety with the Seahawks. I always felt that he was a good player, but come on now. Leonard Williams leaves gets traded to the Seahawks, becomes a top 5 defensive tackle. Is that a crazy thing to say? or top 10. Let's say top 10 because Vea, Dexy, Jones, Simmons, and Hayward. Comes a top 10 defensive tackle. It's got to be the coaching staff at some point, and I think the owners need to seriously consider. Maybe not Steve Tisch. I don't think it's Tisch. I think it's Mara. I think it's Mara personally. You want to know who else is not? You want to know who else is a faller? Duck Bears. Duck Bears, man. Duck Bears. No SNL yet, man. Well, they don't. They're not recording anyways. But if there was, they will not be doing anything for Duck Bears. Man, you are up 17-6. You have a 90+% chance of winning. Then JJ McCarthy happened, and all of a sudden you're losing. That's bad. That's really bad. And not even just like, you field goal and then, we're tied really quickly after like a field goal touchdown to a conversion. They gnawed at that lead, if that makes sense. Vikings got the ball. They drove down the field. And this is post pick 6, JJ McCarthy. This is after the pick 6. After the pick 6, I mean, you can just kind of see here. After the pick 6 happened, they got 3 drives and 3 touchdowns. That should kind of tell you what Duck Bears were doing. Also, what's funny, I was talking, if you guys remember, I was talking to Logan from the fantasy episode, and I said, I cannot wait to talk about Caleb Williams in this episode. Buckle up. If you guys know the Aiden O'Connell rants, you're going to get one here. Anyone who watched the game and said that Caleb Williams is better than he was last year, you're lying to yourself and you know it. He's not any different. He's the exact same quarterback. And if you feel that way, you watch the game again because there's no way that you actually think that. Caleb Williams is the exact same quarterback he was last year. He has happy feet the second he gets the ball. He cannot read blitzes, and he gets confused by the simplest looks. Even if it's zone, if it's man, he cannot decipher it. It has been an issue for his entire NFL career. I know it's been short. It's literally been 18 weeks, but still, or 18 games, but still, at some point, you need to pick that stuff up. Another thing, he abandons the pocket so quickly that it hurts my eyes. He has a clean pocket. He has a clean semicircle around him. You don't need to step up. You're stepping up into invisible pressure. They're not sending any. They're sending 4. Early on, Brian Flores was not blitzing. He was dropping guys back. And you were able to, and you want to know all he did? Checkdowns. Other than the one throw where he was rolling to the sideline and he threw it downfield for Odunze. It was Odunze, right? For Odunze. That was the only good play of the night for Caleb Williams. He is the exact same quarterback that he was last year, where happy feet, holds onto the ball for too long. When he throws the ball, it's inaccurate. It's the same issue we saw last year. And I genuinely feel that way. Statistically, he played fine. Sure. 21 to 35, 210, 60% completion percentage, 1 touchdown, no picks. Sure. Passer rating, though, was 86. If you round up 87, that's okay. That's not great. I'll give him credit. On the ground, he found space. 6 for 58, a touchdown. No, he had that touchdown run, I think, to start the game, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, because he had the passing touchdown late in the game. But I just don't get it. Anyone who watched the game and said, oh, Caleb Williams, yeah, nice step forward. Where? He didn't step forward. He said, I don't think he stepped backward. He's the same guy. And I don't get why. It makes no sense to me. Caleb Williams, as much as I want you to play well because I think he's super entertaining, he's super agile, athletic. All you need and want him to be. That's what he can be, but he's not. And I don't know if he's totally focused in it or not. But something about it, I just don't quite like it with Caleb. I need more. I need more. And he's just not giving it to me right now. Another faller as we move on from Bears. Thank you for listening to the Caleb Williams rant. The Panthers. I thought they wouldn't. I did not think they'd play this bad. And I understand that there was the weather delay, and I know 3 weather delays this week, or at least 3 weather notifications. Bryce Young did not play very well. 18 to 35, 154, touchdown, 2 picks. Not good. Passer rating under 50. He actually had a 48.99. Let's just say 49 passer rating. That's terrible, especially against this defense that's not like mind-blowing. Little rough there for Caleb. I will say his receivers, I mean, T-Mac 5 for 68 isn't bad at all, but everyone else kind of wasn't really that great. Defensively, they were getting picked apart by Trevor Lawrence a little bit. Yeah. He had 1 pick. Trevor Lawrence, 19 to 31 for 178 yards, 61 completion percentage, 74 passer rating. But still, ETN, who was going to get traded this offseason, 16 for 143 on the ground. 9 yards a carry. What? This is the same guy who's going to get traded for like a 7th-round pick this offseason, and all of a sudden he's a top running back again. That's rough. That's really, really rough. I just don't know, man. That's not fun if you're a Panther fan. And I thought that this team would be a little bit better. I did. This is not an issue like, oh, they're terrible. Canales should be fired. Absolutely not. I think Canales is a great coach. I don't think that at all. I'm just saying, if you're playing the Jaguars week 1 on the road, good weather. Well, other than the delay, it was sunny there, and you had good weather. I know the turf there kind of stinks, but like, if we're being real, that's a game you probably should have been a little bit more competitive in. Other than that, I'm struggling to figure out what happened there. I think it's really probably just Bryce Young, and that run defense still stinks, which sucks. After that, I feel like everyone else played an okay game other than those 3. And the Bears, they've played fine. It was just I just wanted to point out Caleb Williams because he's just not playing that well, and that stinks to see. Everyone else played a fine game, I would say, or at least kept it close. Other than the Dolphins, I know the Patriots didn't play that well, but like it was a 1-score game. I wouldn't call them I wouldn't necessarily say, oh yeah, that team's a faller. They're not that good. I don't think they're at that point yet. So we'll leave it at that. Ballers and fallers, check, done. Next up on the docket, we got Dogs of the Week. They are back now. I will say this. I know I say fan voting for them. Here's the one thing I will say about this, though. When you guys are fan voting, when I'm talking Dog of the Week, I'm not talking like a top player, like a Josh Allen kind of player, if that makes sense. Was he a dog? 100%. He absolutely meets the criteria. I'm just trying to say, like, oh, this player who might be a little bit under the radar, give them credit where it's due, or maybe this game wasn't watched that much, give them credit where it's due for that. And I'll start here with my first Dog of the Week, my first ever positional Dog of the Week. I've never done this before. I usually only give it to one player. And I was like, I absolutely need to give it to someone on this offensive line. And I'm like, I don't think I can give it to just one. Everyone played a really, really good game. The Commanders, without Sam Cosmi, played fantastically. I know they gave him 3 sacks, but look, it was really just Brian Burns being able to kind of get a good jump off the snap, and I think the other one was more of a coverage sack. Those happen. Running the ball, man, they were pounding the rock. And I wanted to point out Josh Connerly. Let me just say something. Josh Connerly played great. It was his first career start at right tackle. He's never played right tackle before in his entire career, at least in a game sense. Never before. Not at Oregon, never. He's always played left tackle. He played right tackle for the first time again. He was going up against Brian Burns, and I think he held up pretty well for what it's worth. Give him credit where it's due there. With the Washington Commanders offensive line, man, they played really, really well. They were creating holes for whether it was Eckler, Daniels had a lot of time, or Jacory Krosky Merritt. Whoever was running the ball, they had a lot of room. And you can tell that because on so many second and longs, that they had like screenplays, those offensive linemen were getting out and they were blocking like they were owed money from the Giants defense. It was very impressive to see. I will say, Dog of the Week, number 1, Commanders offensive line, the entire offensive line. But if I had to just point someone out, I guess it would be Josh Connerly. I know statistically it wasn't that great, but I will say Commanders offensive line absolutely deserve a Dog of the Week nomination there from me. Next up, we're going to go to a rookie wide receiver from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We're talking Emeka Egbuka, former Buckeye, first-round pick Egbuka, certified stud. This dude is a baller, is a dog, whatever you want to say about him that's positive. I would agree with you. Let me tell you something. I have never seen a player run smoother routes in his debut than Emeka Egbuka. And I know his stat line does not blow you away, but he got a game-winning touchdown on the Buccaneers' last offensive drive of the game. Egbuka finishes with 4 catches for 67 yards. Okay, sorry, and 2 touchdowns on 6 targets. Egbuka, man, he played really, really well. Also had 1 carry for 9 yards because he can do that too. Give him credit where it's due there. I feel like I've said that a lot, but you know what? That's what we do. Egbuka, wow. I will, and I know just 4 catches for 67 yards is not gonna be like, wow, that's crazy. But give him credit where he deserves it because Egbuka is only going to grow from here. Godwin's not playing for a while. He's not going to. He's still recovering from the ACL. And if Egbuka is playing at this level, they're not going to rush Godwin back. There's no reason to. Even what's his name, McMillan, who's out with the neck injury or whatever it is, the injury up here after the preseason, after he landed on his head awkwardly. He's out until the middle of the season. No reason to rush him back either if Egbuka is playing this well. Evans, Egbuka, and Shepard, they can easily hold the fort down until Godwin and or McMillan come back in the middle of the season. Egbuka, though, dog of the week, absolute, have to do it. Dog of the week, another one, another rookie. And I know statistically, again, didn't have a great game, but give him credit where it's due. I will say this about J.J. McCarthy, next dog of the week here. I know this is a fan voted dog of the week, J.J. McCarthy, and I think that's a fair nomination. Give him, I think he played a really, really good game in the second half. Obviously, the first half, he didn't blow me away that much. I will say, if I can put an asterisk here, the second half especially, that's what I would say. Because the first half, he did not play well at all. He played a very, very ugly game. He did. And that pick six was one of the worst pick sixes I've ever seen in the last couple of years. Those are rookie mistakes. Mahomes does not make that. And I know J.J. McCarthy's not Mahomes or Allen or Lamar. I'm not comparing them. I'm just saying that's a rookie mistake that you see, and it just kind of sucked. I was like, ugh, that's a really ugly pick six he just threw there, trying to force it to Jefferson because Jefferson was clearly getting frustrated because Jalen Johnson wasn't playing. Neither was Kyler Gordon. They were without their top 2 corners, and Nashawn Bright and Tyreek Stevenson were able to they played well, like for the most part until the end of the game. J.J. McCarthy had 13 completions on 20 attempts, 143 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. That was a pick six. But despite that, 98.5 passer rating, which is really solid. I give him that credit. Give him credit there. 2 carries for 25 yards and a touchdown on the ground as well. That's a really solid game for J.J. McCarthy. I mean, look, that's the stuff you like when you're able to see that stuff happen. That's what's nice to see when you see J.J. McCarthy come out after a pick six, and you can see I don't remember what touchdown it was after, but he's going to the sideline. He's like, look at me, I'm real tough. It's like, yeah, I usually dislike that. I'm not a big fan of when quarterbacks are like that because it's like it's your first start. But it's your first start in a super hostile environment on the road in one of the most iconic stadiums in the entire U.S. I mean, Lambeau is probably higher. I mean, maybe a couple like Wrigley Field and Fenway. Soldier Field is up there, maybe top 5. Prove me wrong. And you're coming in there and you're playing with that much of a clutch gene. This is really like the fact that he had such a great clutch gene in his first start. You're down by 11 and you score 21 straight. That's impressive because that doesn't happen a lot. Going down 17-6 to up 27-17 does not happen every day. I will say, look, that was a very special performance from J.J. McCarthy there. I will definitely say, look, he played a really, really good game, and it's really the clutch gene because statistically, not a great game, but he was just clutch, and I have to give him credit where it's due there. It's time for top dog of the week. And it's funny, this was fan voted. I did see someone put his name here, but I knew the second the game was over, my decision was made. I knew he was going to be a top dog. Former Giant quarterback, current Indianapolis Colt quarterback, Daniel Jones. If you told me that in the Big 25, I would be sitting here talking about how well Daniel Jones played in an Indianapolis Colts uniform, I would probably laugh at you. But here we are, and I will love every second of doing this because I think that Jones is finally getting the respect he deserves. Jones, 22 of 29 for 272 yards, 75.86 completion percentage, one touchdown, no picks, 115.88 passer rating on the ground, 7 carries for 26 yards, add an extra 2 touchdowns on top of that. Wow, that's a really, really good game. Yeah, wow, great analysis. But it's true. He played really, really well. And I'd love to see that from Daniel Jones. I will say I'm a little salty. There was one play that Red Zone highlighted where Jones stepped up and he threw deep down the left sideline and he placed it right on the money. It was a sideline catch for Alec Pierce. Pierce made a great catch, and I was like, I don't think Jones ever made that throw with the Giants. I don't think the Giants ever dialed up that play, but a little salty there. But if we're being real, he was fantastic, and there's no way to get around that. He was absolutely incredible against the Miami Dolphins. I will give him a lot of credit there. He was very, 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 very good. And he played like a dog. I've only seen Daniel Jones play like a dog maybe twice in his career. Maybe twice. I think twice is fair to say. I would say, or maybe 3 times in his career. Once in 2022 against the Colts in the game that the Giants couldn't the playoffs in. One against in his debut against the Bucks, and one I had another one that I was going to say and I totally forgot. And then one oh my gosh, I'm totally blanking on it. I had another one loaded. But I haven't seen him. You don't see this happen a lot. I'm really hoping he can continue this play because he deserves to have those kind of kudos there. So Daniel Jones, top dog of the week for week 1. If you guys want to vote, make sure you look at my story sometime on Monday night. On Monday usually is when I'll do it. Maybe Tuesday morning because I like to record these videos on Tuesday night. Or on Tuesday, upload on Wednesday. So make sure you check my Instagram story for Dog of the Week voting to be included, in these videos. Daniel Jones, top dog for week 1. We've made it. It's time for a quick preview of Thursday Night Football. We have a very good game, actually, for Thursday Night Football. I'm used to the Titans and Jaguars, those great, epic games that the NFL chose to be on Prime because everyone wants to pay a bunch of money for streaming services to watch a freaking AFC South barn burner. But we have a good one here. Commanders and Packers, 2 1-0 teams here. The Commanders obviously beating the Giants. Packers obviously beating the Lions, like we talked about earlier in the episode. So let's talk about it. What does each team have that the other team doesn't? So the Commanders have Jaden Daniels. Packers have a guy named Jordan Love. What are they different at? Daniels is very mobile. And I don't think the Packers have someone that'll be good enough to contain him unless they're willing to sacrifice some of their pass rush and maybe use Micah Parsons as a spy. I think that's a good game plan because Jaden Daniels, and we saw this last week, you can't, honestly, I feel like it's best to just go with a base defense against him. If you try to overcomplicate things, he will tear you to shreds. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. That's what he does. And he does that better than any other quarterback in the league. Or at his age, I should say. Put an asterisk there. At his age, not many other quarterbacks are like that. Maybe Bo Nix. So the Packers, if I'm Green Bay, you can't show him anything complex because he's gonna pick you apart because he's just like that. I chose something base. What's a base and typical defense? Maybe like a 4-2-5 kind of thing. Maybe have not Quay Walker. Maybe have Micah Parsons drop back. Sometimes send him. Micah Parsons is your X factor, and I know that's such an obvious thing to say, but it's the truth because we've seen Parsons drop back. We've seen him rush. I don't think you should have him rush because we saw how well that Commanders' offensive line played. Now, I would assume that Parsons would go up against Connerly, a rookie in his second start at right tackle, unless Cosme comes back, which I don't think he will. I highly doubt it. I would assume Parsons would go there. So then maybe you're like, okay, well, if Parsons is there, maybe we should use Gary. Maybe we should drop him back a little bit. If I'm Green Bay, that's what I'm doing there. And you kind of have to let your defense do the rest, or your secondary rather do the rest, because we saw last week Paulson Adebo, who was a mediocre corner, he played pretty well against Terry McLaurin. McLaurin only had 2 for 27 there. But then we saw Drew Phillips and Cordell Flott. Well, Flott played a fine game, but we saw that those extra corners were not were getting beat on the crossers, and I think that's where they meaning the Commanders. I think that's where they like to operate the most. They like those crossers because it gets they like those mesh schemes. They've always liked those mesh schemes, and when your best corner really is Nate Hobbs. I think Hobbs can do it. I think Hobbs is capable of playing a decent game against what's his name against Terry McLaurin. After that, though, Keyshawn Nixon, Javon Bullard, you're kind of cooked a little bit there if you want to stop Debo and oh my gosh, I'm totally blanking on who the third receiver there is. It's not Dotson anymore, but that area they're a little screwed in. If you want to start against this defense, it starts with Jacobs. Offensively for the Green Bay Packers, you got to start with Jacobs. You have to. And you're in Lambeau. Continue that dominance that you had against the Lions. Stop the run and get the run going. That's what they did. And Jacobs played a pretty good game. I would give Jacobs a little bit more. Now that we're in week 2, it's a shorter week. Get him the ball a little bit more. Get him more acclimated. The faster he gets acclimated, the faster you can use him a little bit more. For the Packers, you got to go through Jacobs. For the Commanders, I would throw this exact same thing back in their face. What did you do well in week 1 that probably won't translate to week 2? And that's the 4-man rushes that get home. That's not going to happen. The Giants have one of the worst offensive lines in football, simply put. The Packers don't. Rasheed Walker is all right. Aaron Banks is solid. Elgton Jenkins is good. Sean Ryan is solid. And Zach Tom, who got hurt, though, I thought that Zach Tom got hurt. He's listed as questionable on the depth chart right now. You are not going to be able to send 4 and get home. It's just not going to happen. So what can you do in place of that? Okay, well, look, now you're going to have to send maybe some extra blitzes. And I know Joe Witt loves to send those complex looks. Again, now the thing is with Jordan Love, he has a little bit of a harder time picking those things up. So in terms of throwing the ball, he might not be able to say, okay, well, look, he's coming from here, so maybe he'll be open. Instead, he'll say, okay, well, that gap's going to be open, so I'm just going to take the yards. And are you willing to maybe take 5 yards? Are you willing to blitz on 2nd and 8? That would make it a 3rd and 3. Or are you going to want to drop back in coverage and maybe see if they audible or whatever? I think that's what you got to answer there. In terms of a game pick, I don't know, because I feel like that Washington always wins these games. I'm not going to go with them. Give me Green Bay in this game. I like Green Bay winning this one. My scores were way off. I feel like this is going to be a pretty low scoring is like 20 points now, and that's like such a wild thing to think about. Give me the Green Bay Packers in this game, 24-20. That's fair, because the thing is, a difference between these two teams, the Commanders were beatable. I don't think the Packers were in the game that they played. They both dominated, but I feel like the Commanders, if they played the way they did, again, it was week 1. At home, so they had a little bit of leeway against a pretty crappy team. But if they played the way they did against, I don't know, the Cowboys or maybe the Eagles, they would have lost. The Giants they just got lucky with, because the Giants are not a good team. They're not. So give me the Packers, though, 24-20 on Thursday night on Prime or on Twitch. I don't even know. Thank you all for watching and choosing the Talkin Football podcast as your source of football content. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe on this video for more Talkin Football content. Also, while you're at it, you might as well go on Instagram, look at Talkin Football Pod up there, and give me a follow there. Same handle as it is on YouTube as it is on Instagram. Again, that's at Talkin Football Pod on Instagram. I'll be posting pretty much. If you're like, hey, I don't really know if I want to watch like a dog of the week segment here, guess what? They're posted on Instagram. You say, okay, well, look, my favorite team, I love the Colts. Let's see if Danny Dimes got top dog. He did. And now you know because you followed my Instagram. So you save yourself some time if you want to do that. If you're already subscribing here, you might as well go on Instagram and follow me there. Thank you all for watching. This is Talkin Football, and that's what I say about that.